On this episode, Ethan just got back from Brazil. So Ethan just got back from Brazil earlier this week, and I'm stoked to hear a little bit more about it. He had a whole tour in Brazil for quite a bit. Ethan, you want to take us through just a little bit about what you did? And then we'll talk more?
Sure. I was there for about 2 weeks. I just got back a couple days ago, and let's see. I flew into Sao Paulo, awesome city, the largest metropolitan area in the Western Hemisphere. Way bigger than New York,
really?
Slightly bigger than Mexico City. So it's pretty sprawling. Yeah, it's cool. It's incredible. A couple days there, we started off some coffee shops. The cool thing about Brazil is they don't allow unroasted green coffee into the state into the country from other countries.
Yeah.
So when you go into a coffee shop, unless they're bringing in roasted coffee, it's pretty much all.
It's all Brazil.
It's all Brazil. Their espresso blend is going to be a Brazilian blend of Brazilians, and then they'll have single origin offerings, just like we would, except it's all Brazil.
That's cool.
So that was really interesting. Ate some good food, and it was pretty cool there.
I'm a little jealous of the food, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it, really.
Yeah.
I wish I was there.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty. I'm jealous of the food.
Yeah. I have an affinity for exotic fruits too, so there's a ton of different fruits that we can't get in Brazil.
I bet you that probably added a lot to your coffee vocabulary too.
Yeah, that's the idea. I like to taste new things so that I can drop cashew fruit or chirimoya. Look it up on the cupping table up here. It's pretty fun.
So then what else?
Yeah, so after Sao Paulo, like 2 or 3 days there. We drove about 4 hours northwest to Carnaval de Minas, which is where this competition that I was invited to judge, which is the reason for me going down there. It was held in Carnaval de Minas at this cooperative called Cocarive, who we work with a lot. Yeah, check it out. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, represent. So 4 hours northwest of that. We got there and kind of just toward the town. So pretty much the next day we just started in with the competition. We did a round of all pulp naturals. The competition was set into 2 flights, and I guess I should talk a little bit about what the competition actually was. It was within Carnaval de Minas is within this microregion called Manchacadas de Minas, which is named after the Manchacadas mountain range, which is right in that area. And Manchacadas de Minas is in Minas Gerais, which is about the size of France. So up until I think 3 years ago, they were only permitted to say that their coffee was in Sul de Minas, which is southern Minas Gerais. So that region itself is probably the size of the Netherlands.
Wow.
So think within France and then the Netherlands. I mean, they're massive areas.
That's like saying you're you're on the West Coast. And it's well, there's so many.
Yeah, you're near San Diego or LA, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's completely massive. But a couple years ago, they were able to get the distinction, like a regional specific distinction that's much more related to where they actually grow.
Cool.
And within this region, Manchacadas de Minas, there's 3 cooperatives: Cocarive, Copervas, and Coperhita. And those 3 cooperatives had a competition. They all submitted their best micro lots. And that's the competition that we were asked to judge.
Cool.
There were 4 judges, and 2 of them were from Brazil, and one was myself and another gentleman from the States here.
Cool.
Yeah. The uniting factor was that we're all Q graders, which is, as you know, the kind of the coffee sommelier type equivalent. So there's a very standard way of tasting coffee that we all are familiar with.
So, what was that like? Judging this coffee, and cupping this coffee with people that you don't know and also don't speak the same language, but you all have the same language of you've all been licensed as a Q grader.
Right.
Tell me about that. I'm It's fascinating.
Well, it was pretty interesting, especially as the competition, or as the cupping for the competition, the judging progressed. It was, I found that numbers-wise, I mean, we were more or less on the same page. When we got to the top 10, or the top 20, we were asked to start describing the flavor characteristics. Right. When we got to that, they were using some, really specific Brazilian, fruits and
other
things,
descriptors that are local to them.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah, and other descriptors that I wasn't familiar with. And then I was, I mentioned, something like fennel. They knew what it was, but we had a really hard time figuring out the word for fennel because I was trying to describe it, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. We fortunately had a translator, but the translator didn't even know what I was talking about. So
that would make sense. I mean, we describe things differently just based on our own experiences. That's how you learn to taste.
Brazil in general is massive. The amount of coffee that they grow in Brazil is almost absurd related to other countries. So, I mean, even in this microregion, Manchacatus Geminis, it's still a fraction of 1% of the coffee in Brazil.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing because you go there and all you can see is coffee.
Right.
Within these 3 cooperatives, Cocarive is one that we work a lot with. We just had a coffee from Canaan Estates on our menu, which is an awesome coffee, and that they have their coffee dry milled at Cocarive.
Okay.
So all the parchment and all that stuff, and the bagging and the final preparing for shipment is all done at Cocarive.
That's cool.
And a coffee that's in our streamlined blend is also assembled by Cocarive.
The Pulp Natural Brazil that we have is part of the streamlined blend. That is, that's cool that we got to see. I mean, we have pictures of he's like shaking a tree, of Ethan shaking a tree that we actually bought coffee from that exact tree, probably. Almost certainly.
We did, right? That Canaan Estates that we had was from the Piedra lot, and I asked our lovely tour guide to take us to the Piedra section of this farm.
Yeah.
And Piedra is Portuguese for pretty much rocky, so he took us to the rocky section of his farm, and he said, these trees, and it wasn't a very huge area because it was a pretty small lot of coffee, this is where your coffee came from. So, I mean, that's incredible to me, to be able to go and actually, touch the trees that
we buy coffee
from. Yeah.
What I thought was interesting that we were talking about earlier before we set this up was that the Canaan Estate coffee that we've had on the menu recently it's a natural process coffee, and most of the time when we think natural process, we think really heavy fruit, lots of sweetness, like that, but this one was really not. It was much more peanutty, earthy, and honey. And we were talking about that before. Tell us a little bit more about why that is in Brazil. Like the pulp naturals and the naturals are more Brazilian flavor because
right.
Why?
Yeah, well, Brazil definitely has on a global scale, it has a very distinctive general flavor profile.
Right.
And even among the really high-end lots, you can still kind of tell, or you can still kind of see that character.
Right.
So as far as why the naturals, I mean, this one natural that we had, the Canaan, it was very, very low toned. It wasn't as fruit forward as what you might associate with a natural, which was, which we found to be really kind of exciting and refreshing because, as Kendon said, we don't really associate those sort of lower characteristics with a natural as often. So it's a really interesting coffee. Back to the competition, some of the coffees that we tasted were a little bit more on that side. You're never going to find a coffee that's as floral as a Brazil or as fruit, or as floral as an Ethiopian or as fruity. But within the sort of Brazilian framework, there were some exceptionally fruity, really crisp acidity lots that were pretty exciting.
That's tremendous. And I think what the other interesting thing we were talking about too is that because they don't allow anything else in, what's in Brazil is in Brazil. So the particular varietals that are in Brazil or mutations of varietals that are in Brazil are what's there. And it's just simply that's the way it is. That's the culture there.
Right.
And that kind of helps. I don't know. It helps define Brazil, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
That's what's interesting about what the coffee that comes from there.
Right. You're absolutely right. Well, I mean, the coolest thing, which is always the coolest thing, is being actually able to look the farmer in the eye and see a farmer's plantation,
Yeah.
just see the just exhaustive amount of work, just the hard work that they put.
Yeah.
They just invest their souls into
It's amazing. I
into
mean, it
coffee.
really is a people industry that
Yeah.
we forget when we see it here in the final roasting and preparing the beverage.
Right.
We forget where it came from, and the fact that it's a real
Yeah.
human who picked that.
And a lot of farmers live on their farm, so they wake up in the morning, and the first thing they do, and they just work through until sundown. And it's really humbling to see how much hard work and effort goes into these wonderful coffees that we love so much.
It's inspiring, and I'm insanely jealous that I didn't get to go. So I'll have to work that out next time.
Next time.
Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. A little bit more about Brazil in particular. If you have other questions about coffee origin stuff, coffee preparation, we want to answer some more questions. So leave them in the comments or email them in. There's 1,000 ways to get in touch with us. Email them in. We're going to answer some more questions for you. See you guys later.
See ya.
So, yeah.
It's just me and you in the room.
Just me and you, buddy. Just me and you.